Major Shah is still with us. Major Shah, it is a civil war. Sudan has already been divided into two different countries. It's looking ugly and getting uglier.
Right, Rishabh. Now, thousands of people they had to flee from the region of West Darfur, and they tried to make it to the border and to the neighboring Chad. That's in the West Darfur where we've seen a high increase in violence with the refugees who arrived in Chad. Now they have been targeted by militants allied by the RSF based on their ethnicities. Now Al Jazeera also reported this. In fact, they had cited Hiba Morgan, which was the war which had broken out in Khartoum on April 15th. And no, we have seen this kind of a tragedy in Sudan, and over 3,000 people have lost their lives so far. It is something, and we have very successfully got our people back. We had done a whole lot of Operation Kaveri was very, very effective. The way we did Operation Ganga earlier in Ukraine, we got our people back. We've rescued our people from.
Yeah, but since you mentioned that, it does become ironical, Major Shah, and the reason we are asking this question is for obvious reasons. It's a very ugly and dirty war which is going on in Sudan. Okay, and this applies to us as well as or every other major power, because all that anybody is discussing is Ukraine, because that happens to be in Europe. Africa, nobody seems to care very much.
Right. Yes, absolutely, Rishabh. The very fact is, people don't really care. It's been neglected for quite some time. People would be more interested in the superpowers like America, UK. Rather, right now, the whole focus was on the Russia-Ukraine war and what's happening in Sudan. People are dying. They are civil wars. They are faction between the military and the paramilitary. The ego clash of two senior officers. So the very fact that people don't really care very much, and it is rather unfortunate how people are fleeing. They are getting homeless. It is something it's a humanitarian issue, I would say, and it is something which really needs to stop. Otherwise, because let's make the world a better place. And let me tell you one more thing: a lot of information, in fact, by social media, a lot of fake news also goes through social media. In fact, there are very few reasonable, responsible channels. In fact, I am not once again complimenting you because I'm here with you. But generally speaking, my observation and also my friends, people in my circle, they always praise NewsX because you guys always believe in very, very sensible, mature, balanced, truthful reporting.
As do you, so we can exchange the compliments. So I have one quick question before we wind up and take a break.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Where do the weapons come from, Major Shah? Because the Sudanese are not producing the rockets. Somebody is selling it to them, okay? And let's be realistic, ever since all the major countries have pulled out their citizens, nobody's really talking about Sudan, but it seems somebody is willing to pretty happily supply and arm both sides.
You are 100% right over there, Rishabh. That's a very, very good observation made. In fact, yes, see, Sudan themselves is not a very rich country and they are not capable of getting those weapons on their own. Most certainly, 100% there is a third party over there who are supplying these weapons, and that means there is a lobby maybe of the armed, maybe whatever, who would want this kind of a violence taking place, who would want to promote this kind of violence taking place. It's not just the weapons from the military or the paramilitary which are existing there. They are modernized weapons coming there. We've had Indian soldiers over there for the UN mission. We have had, in fact, Ambassador Deepak Vora. He is very, very affluent with the matters in Sudan. He comes on the channel very often, and he knows the intricacies of it, exactly what's happening. And I've had personal friends who have been there. I had a lot of my friends who are very, very dear to me. For example, Captain Tour was there. He was there in Sudan. He told me I interviewed him. He told me the entire story about how and what happens in Sudan and how it is. So most certainly there is an external agency, there is an external force who is supplying these weapons, this money, this whole racket which is going on. So it is much more than that meets the eye, and of course the military.
Yeah, well, Sudan has been an unhappy place since the time of Chinese Gordon in Khartoum. But I think it's worth meriting conversation that ever since, and this includes us in India, ever since we've all got our citizens out, we're no longer discussing this. The conversation is only on Ukraine. And if you remember the very beginning of the Ukrainian war, when the stereotypical coverage happened that this is not some African war, that these are Europeans, your blonde hair, blue-eyed Europeans, white-skinned Europeans dying, and there were journalists who were saying this, trying to emphasize the importance of this war as being different. I think this contextualization has been put into place for us. Let's come back and have a more detailed conversation on this. And if we are to be a world power, we also have to ask ourselves the tough questions. Which are the conflicts in which we can't do much, nor should we try to do much, and which are the conflicts in which we should try to achieve peace? Let's take a break. Thank you to Major Shah.